Hi, everybody. Hi, everyone. Hello. I'm Jane.
And I'm Sarah.
And that's Sarah. And you're listening to the Medium Curious Podcast, the show where we are making the paranormal normal.
And do you remember how we promised that we were going to bring you people whose lives have been changed by mediumship? Well, today we're interviewing my friend Britt. But first, can I just check in with you, Jane? How you doing?
That's nice. I'm good. I'm excited, as usual. I think that's my keyword, isn't it? I'm excited. But here's why. So Sarah and I are both professional. It sounds weird. We both do mediums. We do. That's a whole other show. We are both mediums, meaning we do reading. Oh my God, that's hilarious. But we also are students, and most mediums I know are constantly studying as well. So we're taking this amazing class, and we're taking another amazing class. So we're like in a lot of classes. And what's awesome about that is, first of all, we get to meet all these gorgeous mediums, and second of all, you know, the readings we get. So that's what I want to tell you about, Sarah.
We get readings ourselves, yeah.
Yeah. So our
I
loved
need
ones,
readings.
I love readings, especially because it's just cool to see someone else work, first of all. And second of all, my mother-in-law who died just a year ago, who I love so much, she hasn't come through
Feisty
yet.
Phyllis.
Feisty Phyllis. I guess she's come through with you. Who am I kidding? Feisty Phyllis came through with you. But she hasn't come through in like that kind of setting yet. And I was thinking about her. I was like, wouldn't it be neat if Granny Phil is what we called her in our family, Granny Phyllis. Wouldn't it be neat if Granny came in? And lo and behold, I have chills. She walked right in the door. Like, I meet this brand new medium. I've never met this gal in my life. And she's like talking about being in the kitchen. And she says, and I'm being shown my mother-in-law's kitchen. And I'm laughing. I was like, right, because it's my mother-in-law. But she doesn't totally get that right away. She keeps saying grandmother, which is true because she's very much a grandmother to all of us. Anyway, she had amazing evidence. She totally nailed it. She just brought in my dear mother-in-law in the sweetest way. And she was really funny. She goes, she loved to cook, but you don't cook at all. She says you don't cook at all. I was like, that's right. I hate cooking. But
You've
we still got along.
Spilled the beans. Oh, yeah, that's so funny.
She nailed me there. But anyway, so it was really, really sweet. But anyway, how are you? How'd that all go for you this week?
Well, my grandmother came through in a reading yesterday in the most amazing way possible. And it just made me feel so loved and so supported. And I've been, I don't know, a little bit nervous about this podcast coming out. And the woman who was giving me this reading had no idea that we have this podcast coming out. And the message that my grandmother gave me was, keep going, honey. You're being your true, authentic self. You're speaking your truth. And it was just exactly what I needed to hear. But then get this. My sister later on in the day sent a text of my grandparents, a picture of them.
Wow.
And she's never, ever texted a picture of my grandparents, ever.
Oh.
So it was just, had been feeling them around because of these readings. And then I get this picture and it's just like, oh yeah, they're definitely around, loving me, supporting me, and I can feel it. And it just is exactly what I needed.
Boo-hoo. Oh, that's so good. That's so good. That's the stuff, friends.
That's right.
The stuff. Okay, Sarah. So, before we get into this interview, that is our first interview, what I want to do is see if you can kind of set us up, because we're going to jump right in when y'all start talking about the reading that you shared, that you gave. But before we do that, can you set the scene for us?
Yeah. So Britt is a friend of mine, a mom friend. They have two twins that are my youngest daughter's age and then an older kid. And I've known them for the past 2.5 years, which has included a year of walking to and from school every single day.
Wow.
And during that time, they underwent this huge life transformation, but it also coincided with a spiritual awakening. And the reason why I asked them to come and talk about it was because it all kind of seemed to start around this time where they were interested in mediumship and were taking a mediumship class and were open to me giving them a practice mediumship reading. So let's
Let's
get
listen
to
in.
it. Yeah.
Awesome.
So Jane, this is Britt. I've been telling you about them. This is the Britt.
The Brit.
Hi.
Welcome. We're so
Thank you.
excited for you to be our very first guest on Medium Curious.
I didn't know I was the first.
Yep.
You're the first.
Oh, I like that. You offered to give a reading, and I was like, yes, 100% when. And you were like, in 2 days or tomorrow or something. It was like very soon. And then we just did it. You go,
So,
Sarah.
all right, I think the first person who came in your reading was your grandmother. Is that right? Did your grandmother come in
Yeah.
first? Okay.
hmm
But I kind of remember her coming through, but who I really remember coming through was your dad. And you can talk about your experience of it first, because I saw his like eyes come up first, but I couldn't remember the politician's name, and I remembered it now. He had John Edwards hair. Do you remember that politician, John Edwards?
Yes, he did have John Edwards hair.
Yes.
100%.
So I saw this man pop up and I saw his eyes, and they looked like Britt's eyes, like this kind of greenish, beautiful eyes, and like John Edwards hair. Like with that severe part and like full head of hair.
Yeah, combed.
Yeah, perfectly coiffed.
Coiffed, exactly.
Yes.
Yep, that was him. And you described him to, you were like, kind of like man hands, and like, like he had a drink. He was like swirling a drink, a brown drink with ice. I was like, yep, that's the one. And then he was like, you brought through a lot of evidence that I could point to from like my childhood. There was this big tree. He would like clean up, have to constantly be cleaning up the leaves.
Yeah, he was
You were
annoyed
like,
with
he's
that
showing me this.
tree.
He was so annoyed with the tree. You're like, he's showing me this tree that like it was such a pain in the butt to like maintain. I was like, it was this huge magnolia tree. He would always be out there just smoking and like raking up magnolia leaves. And anyway, so a lot of evidence.
Yeah.
For sure.
I mean, other stuff too, like a lazy boy chair.
Yep.
Like just
that
like
he used to read to us.
Yeah, just like, and really, like, I got the sense from him, like his personality, he was kind of unapologetic in a way, like, this is who I was, but also an acknowledgement, like, I know I wasn't easy.
Right. Right. And that was like, I mean, is this where we can start talking about the message? Because like, that's what that reading changed my perspective of like, he knew more after he transitioned. He knew what pain he had caused in his life, and he was sorry. So I finally got this, like, I know I wasn't the dad that you needed in this life, and I'm sorry I wasn't. And then his mom came through and basically said that about him. Like, I didn't show up for him in this life the way he needed, but I'm showing up for him now, and he has everything he needs. And then dad was able to, I think I asked, like, you were like, do you have any questions while he's here? And I said, do you know my kids? And then, oh my God, it was like this, it was like warm honey butter, just like all the way down my body, chills, crying. You got
Thing.
chills.
I felt that too. It was like just being doused in a bucket of love.
Doused in love. Just like from the Tinkerbell tree, that tree of like, I always have like Disney visuals, like imagery in my mind, because I love all the Disney stuff. And it's like that tree of life, or the pixie dust tree, where it's just like golden flowing warmth. And that's love. And so I felt it in my body so strong. And he was like, I know your kids. I love your kids. I'm so proud of you. Like, I'm gonna cry now, but um, and like that's what I wanted to hear. Like I felt like it gave me validation that like he still knows me and loves me and he's here.
Yeah. Oh,
Incredible. What the
whoa.
hell was that? Oh my god, you guys.
I didn't hear it.
Oh, the speakers blew out. That was, yeah. If
I
we're
feel
gonna
like
have
that
to
was
cut
spirit.
this out. Yeah, I kind of do feel like that was spirit. Just like, rah.
Yeah, we just got like blasted, but it was a little bit intense. It was like
Oh, did something come unplugged? What? Anyway.
No, it was just,
nothing
it was an
changed.
energy surge.
Oh.
Oh my
That makes
So
god.
sense.
fun.
Okay. So here comes your dad. He's like flowing a bunch of Tinkerbell magic at you. You're feeling it in your body. Sarah's got ridiculously profound, clear evidence about specific stuff she would never, ever in a million thousand years ever be able to know, even though
Right.
she's your new BFF from the playground. So then
For 1
what
month.
well, yeah, per this last month. So what is going through your mind? How do you take your next day forward? Like what happened?
Um, I didn't question anything. It just felt like I was really in my body from that point forward, actually. Like my mind, I don't really remember. Then it was just on a roll with the next things. I mean,
There was
so
so much going on for you at that point. Like
yeah,
I felt like you had just had the lights switch come on
yeah,
and you were like, okay, I'm in charge of my life. There's power in getting in touch with my emotions. So that's what I'm going to do. And you became empowered.
yes.
And there's something about like, I mean, maybe I'm just creating a link here, but I feel like having that spiritual side turned you on somehow.
Oh, 100%, yes. And like having those core wounds, like abandonment, all of us have certain wounds from childhood. And it's like connecting with the people who drove those wounds in this human life through spirit in such a loving way is like it starts to unearth the wound, but also heal it in a way that's like profound. So you can just start moving forward with whatever you want to do in your life. It's like, yeah, you don't have to battle like, is there anyone on my team? Am I at this alone? Like, no, you have the whole universe and especially your people right behind you.
All right. All right. So what so I liked your question, Sarah. That was a little bit of like the before and the after, like but before reading and before kind of reconnecting with spirit. And I loved what you had to say about how that empowered you. So then what happened after? What came next in your life personally?
Then I think I went to that Christmas party, Sarah, right? And my body was woken up. And I mean, is that what I'm going with next?
I think so. I think I know where you're having realizations about your true authentic self.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Which
yeah,
which is where are you now in your life?
yeah, I'm queer. Um, and I was straight before. So how I learned is my body turned on, and then, yeah, I discovered this authentic self underneath. So, yeah, I don't know how much in detail you want me to go. So,
However
Whatever you're comfortable with.
yeah.
yeah, well, I mean, that's a that's a big invitation, Jane.
Well, okay, so I'll help frame it a little bit.
Frame it. Yes.
You were here you are. You've got 3 kids. You're married to a man. You're from Alabama, right?
Yes.
You grew
And
up
I
as a
grew up
southern like is it cotillions and
Yes, yes. Okay, that's a good frame. Yeah, I grew up Christian, first of all, Southern Baptist in Alabama, and I did debutante. I was in a sorority. I did church show choir. I was really into the prescription of a good girl, good Southern Christian girl. And I
a
started
certain
to lose that.
definition? Yeah. Yes.
And
Yeah.
I started to lose that more and more. And so, I mean, before this time, but then that's how it could have gotten to where I didn't know that about myself, I guess.
So you were woken up
Yeah.
to yes. And what about having that perspective of spiritual that spiritual side that enabled you to do that? Is there because I feel like that kind of went hand in hand for you.
It absolutely went hand in hand. It was like a spiritual awakening and a sexual awakening at the same time because both supported the other. It was like, so the spiritual piece of it is that it doesn't matter what sexuality, gender you are. And but I had to deal with all the internalized homophobia, um, all that stuff along the way. And so it had to be kind of like, a gradual, it wasn't really gradual, but to me it was like it had to be piece by piece. Of like realization. But but yeah, once I had that connection to spirit and like the wave of like love behind me, it felt like I wasn't really scared to, you know, basically tell my husband, I don't want to be in this marriage anymore. I want to be with women. I feel it in my body. And even though I'd never kissed a woman because
Wow.
I was in a monogamous marriage and it was not within the boundaries of that. And I didn't want to, like, I was invested so much in like my family, I had just, yeah, I mean, I was trying to be like the matriarch and this loving mother of and really embrace my life choices and until this switch happened where it was like, yeah, like feeling love in my body, it woke me up. And then you can't deny then after that like what your body tells you and what your
Mm.
heart tells you. It's kind of like this is what we're doing. Okay, we're just going to have to deal with what comes after that. Like
Wow.
and but this idea that I could get through each stage. So
Hmm.
Yeah. I gotta say from walking with you literally every day to school.
every day.
Yeah. And like watching you go through all of this, the grace that you went through, the courage that
Mhm.
you went through this, how you showed up for everybody still, even though, you know, it was really hard, but it was also really beautiful for you from my point of view, just like
Yeah.
you getting to be happy, you know?
Yeah. I
Um,
mean 100%. Yeah. It it felt like the hard stuff didn't really feel, I mean, there's definitely moments of like, oh my gosh, this human experience is very hard. This is not fun. Um, but like if I look back even like 2 months ago in during the journey, I would be like, oh, a month ago I thought I couldn't work as a nurse and provide for myself in the Bay Area. Now I have a job that does just that. And I'm
wow.
doing it. Like, you know what I mean? So I could oh, anytime I got, "This is too hard. What have I done?" It was like, "Oh, no, I'm actually doing it. I'm just fine. I'm just having a human moment."
And I think what I enjoy so much about you is that we talk about that a lot. Like, oh,
Yeah,
it's just our little human selves. You're able to step back and look at things from that big, huge perspective
yeah,
of where we're souls, we're spirit, and we're here having these like human experiences, trying on all of these different roles, and we talk about being in our meat suits. And
I love that. I love the meat suit idea. It's very soothing. It's just like, oh, it's just a bunch of meat. And now I have to figure
Yeah.
out how to fillet it better or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, how do I deal with this meat? So funny.
Totally.
Okay, so wait, I have a question. I'd heard little bits and pieces of this story over time, and one of the things that I loved about hearing was how your dad kind of kept piping back in, right? Wasn't he kind of showing up a lot throughout? And can you talk about that?
Yeah, and my grandmother. So on subsequent walks, and like, so I have to say, Sarah also would like, I was like, became this voracious listener of audiobooks of all these spiritual people. So I would listen to one and then I'd be like, okay, next. And she'd text me the next one. And then I would listen to, and it was like all these ones about sign. I mean, it was the book called Signs. It was Carolyn Mace. It was like all the people. So I said, I feel like my dad sends me bluebirds. And Sarah was like, yes, 100%. And then we would go on walks and she would be out and she would see bluebirds, like 2 on a wire, and she would just text it to me.
Oh, I have such chills. Like the bluebirds are like, blah, 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 blah. So sorry, please keep going.
No, it's so good. I love hearing about the chills. And then we were on a walk. And I said, I feel like I'm seeing monarchs everywhere. Like I get out of my car, there's a monarch butterfly. Out the door, there's a monarch butterfly. And then Sarah got chills and she was like, oh, that's Opal. That's your
Is that grandma?
yeah,
Grandma, yeah. And so from then on, it's just been like, I don't necessarily get bluebirds, but Dad,
you get ditch witches.
I get ditch witch, which is like,
so I actually read for Britt's sister, and her dad came through as well, and I couldn't tell what it was. He showed me. It looked like a golf cart rolling down a ditch. And I asked your sister what it was, and she's like, "Oh yeah, he rolled a ditch witch," which is what what is a ditch witch?
it's like a machine. It's like some construction equipment that makes ditches. And the story goes that he was gonna make a ditch at our lake house, and he decided he wanted to do it himself, not instead of hiring people, and he drove the thing into the lake. And so someone had, like a tow
I thought it
company
was
had
a
to come.
golf cart that he had rolled
Right.
into a lake, but it was a ditch witch.
It was a ditch witch. I think he was still learning how to show you things, but
But you were talking I was on the phone with you one day, and you were having a hard time. And I was trying to encourage you, and then right there, I'd never seen one before. A truck goes by, and it was towing a ditch witch. I'd never ever seen a ditch witch. I was like, Britt, you're never gonna believe this, but I am seeing a ditch witch right now. So,
oh my god,
yeah, and it's not like an excavator or it's a very obscure piece of
yes,
yeah.
especially
and I saw one
like
yesterday.
No, you did?
Yeah, like it's coincidence.
awesome,
It's so good.
so good.
I'm like, listeners, they're in the Bay Area. I don't think there's a lot of ditches that need to be witched in the Bay Area. So,
No.
so that's really rad.
Yeah. Oh, and I gotta tell. So I was in the shower, and you were also going through something too, and you had like a lot of questions, and you were like kind of in it. And this is like, I don't generally leave my mediumship door open in the shower, but all of a sudden I saw those little eyes again and the John Edwards hair.
And you heard something.
And I heard like race cars going vroom, 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 vroom. And then I was like, oh, I know who this is. I was like, what's up? Do you have a message for Britt? And I heard, what was it? Steer clear of Temptation Alley. And then I also heard Smokey and the Bandit, which was for your sister, right?
Yes, Bandit is her dog's name, and Smokey because he smoked, and we smoke.
So I heard that, and then I heard him say, this is the buck stops here. This is where it ends. This is where the cycle stops.
Oof.
Yeah, he said the pattern stops with
Yeah.
him, is what he meant.
Wow.
Yeah. And it turns out he was like a big NASCAR fan.
He was and you heard Dale Earnhardt.
Oh yeah.
And you had no idea about NASCAR and Dale
No,
Earnhardt.
I know
You were
nothing.
just like, Dale Earnhart, does that sound right? And I was like, yes, oh, my dad's favorite NASCAR driver. And he would always be like, my boys are driving today, like every Sunday that they would. So NASCAR is like a big thing for him. And now I do get like, I have this nickname Turbo, and I get like, so I'll see Turbo on things, and then I'll get race car stuff from him now.
And
Yeah,
the steer
he's
clear of
built.
Temptation Alley too.
I was
It
just
made
gonna
sense
ask
to you
that.
at the
Like, what
time
did
as
that?
well.
Why did that need to come through? Like, why did he have to check in with Sarah in the
Yeah.
shower?
I
He's
think that had to
cheeky.
do with the crush. He is cheeky.
I mean,
It suits
Sarah's
his
so
personality.
beautiful.
Yeah, that's perfect for his personality. Of course he would come in the shower. It has meant different things at different times. So I keep going back to those messages because especially the pattern stops here one. But the Temptation Alley, I think, had to do with keeping going and interacting with that crush. I think that's what it had to do with at that point, because it was like I was just stuck on something, it was like patterning, stuck on a person that was not for me, basically. That's what it meant then. But Temptation Alley is, to me, has been like that urge to just like check out, dissociate, like just be like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like that's kind of what my dad's MO was in this life. And not take responsibility for my own life, basically. And yeah, and it's come out in different ways, like, not taking care of my body the way I want to, or I feel better, not, or like hanging out with people that drain my energy. And I know that I really don't want to be hanging out with those people, it's like, but there's temptations all along the way for me.
Sure, as there are for everybody.
For everybody. But yeah. And then, yeah.
I just love that. I mean, I think that's such a common human experience, as you're saying, Sarah. Like the idea of like, okay, life is hard. It is too hard. It is overly hard. What can I do to like escape this moment? Really? So it's like, oh, I'm going to eat, or I'm going to drink, or I'm going to something, because this is like too much. So then what I'm hearing you say is that the pattern is that what you mean by the pattern? Like he would check out so much to the point of like it wasn't good. Like he would be just a little bit destructive.
Yeah, like he was a big drinker. So that was his way to check out. But he also so the pattern, I can't remember what the pattern, I think that was what the pattern was then, was meant to me. But then like it morphed. So most recently, what he meant by the pattern stops with me is like finding your worth outside of yourself, and like looking to, are you doing well in your job? That means you're doing good in life. That means you can be proud of yourself. Do you have a good family? Like all these outside of yourself that indicate you're doing well and you should be proud of yourself. It's like, nah, that comes from just being. Honestly, like that, and like grasping that though in the body, and being able to like actually live from a place that's like, oh, I'm worthy of all this good stuff that I can do in my life. And yeah, so that's been huge. I feel like there was another one more recently that the pattern, for sure, like the alcoholic patterning, the behaviors and patterns that come along with that. I feel like I've started to notice that more in my life throughout history. And I'm like, yeah, I'm dropping that. I'm not interested in that chaotic way of interacting with people that's like comes along with that alcohol use. It's like its own, set of behaviors and stuff that I'm not interested in anymore. So it's like, yeah,
Just
stops with him.
freeing. Yeah.
It's freeing. Yeah.
You know, just a
Oh.
fun like connector. My Aunt Jane, who so my dad crossed pretty young too, Britt. We have that in common. And my Aunt Jane once said that almost exact phrase at a meeting where my cousin was picking up a chip, and she had a ton of years, and my other cousin and I were both in attendance from different parts of the country, and we were all celebrating her having set down alcohol, 15 years before.
Wow.
And my Aunt Jane jumped up and she ran around the room going, "The pattern stops here. The pattern stops here. Like, the cycle ends right now," like thinking of the next generation, like your kids and my kid and and I know Sarah has set down alcohol and I have personally set down alcohol. So I just like want to be a cheerleader for that because I have found it to be an extraordinary gift. And I'll just add really briefly that it also gifted me mediumship, was putting it down. Yeah. Like very shortly after I got out of that chaos funnel, I found this place. And so it's sort of then the opposite for Sarah, where she found this place and had to put down the chaos funnel. I like calling it a chaos funnel, isn't it?
Chaos funnel. It's so good. I'm like, yes, it's like drinking from like a water hose. I mean, a like fire hose of like chaos. When you introduce that like monkey wrench into things, I mean,
it takes away the discernment.
It's like a heavy entity or something. You know what I mean? It's like a heavy energy, all those patterns. And I feel like the more of us that release it, it's just so great. Because
there's
our
much
culture in general. And our culture in general, just like,
our culture in general is like celebrates chaos, right? Like that's what most TV shows are about. Like, look at that chaos funnel, But when we can set it down and like you're saying, Sarah, have discernment, like I'm going to choose this, I'm going to choose that. It's sort of like what you're saying, Britt, like I can see that person is maybe bringing some chaos and I'm not interested, or I could see that, whatever. It's sort of like in any place in the life, you can be like, no, thanks. I love myself too much.
Yes, I love that. Like, and I trust myself completely. Like, if this does not feel great, I'm not interested.
Yeah. It's been awesome watching you choose the power of choice, knowing that you are, like I said, empowered. It's just been
like
so
it's all
beautiful.
like, thank you. It really can come down to that. It's like so many of my patients as a nurse, I go into homes. I'm a home health nurse. So it's like seeing people in their environment of like chaos and pain that they've created, that, that is a reflection of all the things that they're working out in this life. I mean, I don't judge them for it. I'm just like, wow, there's a lot of chaos here. And you keep choosing it without knowing, but you keep choosing the chaos. And figuring out that you don't have to choose chaos if you don't want to. Like sometimes I want to.
Dude,
not gonna lie.
Totally. Sign me up. Totally.
Like if I'm feeling good and aligned, I do want to go mix with some chaos and see what's out there.
Yeah.
little taste.
A little like, no. A little take a bite. Yeah.
A little juiciness once in a while, or a lot.
Yeah, I know. And then it's so funny how mine like, now I'm going to have a bite of a chocolate and that's my whole chaos. Like it gets smaller and smaller, but it's ridiculous. But I just I want to bring something back that I think is so unbelievably gorgeous that I'm never going to forget this day. I'm never going to forget this day of sitting and talking to you because I'm stunned by how your description, for one, of like how spirit came over the honey butter, first of all, like, hi, I'm here for any kind of confectionery kind of imagery when it comes to spirit. and then how you talked about that healing of like, okay, now things are different. And it's like, it's so trippy because I've had a similar experience where I was like, my grandmother was an alcoholic and she just basically did me wrong, the end. She left the planet, we're done, the end. So then Sarah, in fact, is the same human who brings my grandmother through, and like my grandmother and I and Sarah are like buds. Like we are buds. Like we are people who understand this life. And she is like my son's biggest supporter. And she also comes through as monarch butterfly.
What?
I know it. And has from the beginning, like that is her sign. And so I was just thinking about how they must be hanging out on the other side, our grandmas. And but like, yeah, I mean, I have all this writing I did as recently as 3 years ago where I was like, anyway, enough about my grandma because I don't like her, to this like juicy, warm hug of a friendship and incredible appreciation for who she was and who she, made out of me. And like, but it's all different. Like it's completely a different relationship. She's still on the other side. I'm still on this side. And things have evolved dramatically. And I just think that's some of the juiciest part of mediumship is the ability to like recalibrate a whole relationship. And then all the trickle down with you and your kids and like life. So can you just tell us about like life now and what you're most looking forward to? And like, so what's next?
Life now is like so good. I love my life. I understand my kids in a much like deeper way. I understand them as little light beings that I'm here to like, not protect them from their pain, but to like help them name it, help them through it, like comfort them, give them what they need for this life. I feel honored to do that. I feel like we chose each other. It's like I have this whole perspective now that literally helps me in my day-to-day life of like taking care of 3 kids half the time,
I mean, we were just on the phone last week. Like, okay, what are all those COVID tests saying? You've got COVID in your house too?
We've got 103 fever over here.
Yeah. The muck
so
of
the
it.
contrast is definitely there. And like, but I appreciate it in a different way now where I'm like, oh yeah, this is the part where I just be human and slow down and zoom in. And I'm most excited. So about everything, but hold on. So I basically have just like started being like, what do I like? What do I want to do? And it's like, I like looking at the sky. I like watching the birds. So any free moments now, I just go out to the beach or go to the woods and like take my binoculars and walk around and I touch moss and I like put my feet in the water and I feel like I'm kind of falling in love with nature in a way that's so beautiful. And then I'm dating people, so I'm keeping that open and fun and discernment for the painful situations that I might not want to choose this time around. And the last thing that I'm super stoked about is that I know I'm going to be doing something in this work like at some point in my life.
Oh, big time.
Yeah, like no doubt. But like right now I have to recognize I'm in this part where I have to like put my head down and do the human work. So I'm working in a nursing job that's like beautiful in a lot of ways and super hard in a lot of ways. And so I'm excited to get to a point where where my work gives me just like joy and love, So yeah, I think it'll happen. It's just
Oh yeah, absolutely.
along for the ride.
Well, I'd have to say you transform fast. So
yeah.
Oh yeah, that Akashic record reading that Sarah did, it said speed of light. My soul is evolving at the speed of light.
Whoa.
Which also fit in with the NASCAR.
Yes.
Vroom, vroom.
Vroom, vroom.
Love it.
Well, Britt, thanks so much for sharing all of that with us. You really inspire me, and I know you're going to inspire a lot of people. So thank you for coming on and always being curious, because you are one of the most curious people I know.
Yes.
Such an honor. Thank you, friend. Thank you for being here.
Thank y'all so much.
See you soon.
Bye.
Wow.
I know, right?
Wow.
So good.
Sarah, I speak for our listeners and just say thank you for bringing Britt. What an incredibly bright light of a human being.
I know. So good. Well, I think we need to wrap it up, Jane.
Sad.
I know. But come back next week when we don't know what we're going to be talking about yet, but it's going to be awesome.
It's
so
going to be good.
Yeah.
Come on back, curious friends.
Love you. Love everyone.
Love everyone else. Okay, bye.
Medium Curious is made possible
by Jane Morgan Editing.
Sarah Rathke made the amazing music.
And Gigi Hawkins, podcast consultant.
Our logo was created by Eric Allen.
Kyle Hansen McKee, photography.
And the dogs under the desk in Hawaii are Kalea and Domino.
And Trixie in California.